G'day, I'm Matt. This channel is called The Right Car, and these are the Nissan Navara Warrior models. There's the entry-level SL grade, which is a bit more rudimentary, but actually has plenty of appeal, and the higher grade PRO-4X model, which has a few more features and a bit more flair that you might like. And both of them are really, really good. I'm going to tell you what's great about them and things they could do better in this review. If you've already liked and subscribed, thanks very much. Let's go take a look, shall we? There are 16 different versions of the Nissan Navara available in Australia, 27 if you include the transmission differences as well. I'm not covering all of them in this review. It honestly would just take too long, but we're just focusing on the Warrior versions of this vehicle. So they're all built in Thailand, and then the Warrior versions go into a factory in Melbourne and they're rebuilt essentially. New suspension settings and also a whole heap of extras fitted to these models. Now, you are still getting heaps of standard equipment across each of these versions. I'm not going to dwell too much on it, but you're getting a touch screen, you're getting some digital instrumentation, and obviously some other features that you will appreciate. I'll talk about some of those in the interior section coming up. So let's talk a little bit more about this SL grade first. So it's the entry-level Warrior. It gets a bit more of a rough and tumble look to it. It's got this hooped bull bar, which might actually be better for you if you live in the country. What maybe won't be as good for you is these halogen lights. They're a bit dull, and you also get a light bar integrated into this bull bar as well. Under the body of the car, there's a protective bash plate to stop things from getting too beaten up underneath when you go off-road, as we will soon. You've also obviously got these wheel arch flares, 17-inch alloy wheels with those Cooper all-terrain tires. And on this grade, you don't get side steps, so just watch your knees and your jeans as you're getting in and out of the car. You will get muddy. You've got this Warrior sticker pack on the back as well, and we'll get to some more stickers in a sec. Now, all versions of the Navara Warrior come with a tow bar, which I think is a real advantage for this vehicle. It's also got 3.5 ton towing capacity, and underneath there's also a full-size spare wheel as well. So the SL grade, I think, has heaps of features that you will like, but if you want a few more things, then the PRO-4X Warrior might be the better choice for you. More stickers, if that matters. I know that it does to some people. I don't love stickers, but you also get this roll bar thing at the back, sports bar, I think they call it. I don't really get those. I think they just get in the way, but hey, maybe you've got a different thought on that. You do get side steps on this grade, and you might find that they might touch down occasionally if you are on some more serious terrain, but at least it's easier to get in and out if you need to. Up top, you've got a set of bars on top as well. And at the front, well, you've got this different bar. It's a hoopless, sporty looking bull bar. And obviously it's going to be maybe a little bit less protective of the higher elements of the car, but you do get these better headlights. They're LED. You've got LED daytime running lights on at the moment, full LED headlight technology as well, and a light bar too. So look, this car has heaps and heaps of features. It's also got a nicer interior. I'll show you that in a sec. And both of them seem to stack up pretty well from a purpose-built, straight off the showroom floor, off-roader perspective. But are there any alternatives you should be considering? So if you're looking at the SL Warrior, you might want to go and have a look at the GWM Canon XSR, which is the more hardcore take on the Canon Ute range from China. And it does have heaps of off-road features and off-road readiness to it as well. It's got some really cool tech, some really great camera tech in particular. And also I think that it does stack up hugely well when it comes to the value for money perspective. It's affordable and it has a 7-year warranty as well. And if you're considering the PRO-4X, well, I mean, if you can spend an extra 20,000 bucks or so, you could go and buy a Ford Ranger Raptor. And obviously that is no small amount of money to upspend onto something like that. But hey, I think that the Ranger Raptor is still one of the most amazing vehicles I've ever driven in terms of breadth of capability. Sure, it doesn't have the same level of towing capacity or payload capacity as some of the other Utes out there. But when it comes to doing fun and silly stuff, it could be the best option out there if that's what you're after. And a final third option that you might want to consider, the Jeep Gladiator. I know that might be a little bit of a weird one, but hey, it's got petrol power and it's also got serious, amazing off-road credentials. I've driven it off-road and I was absolutely blown away at the capability of it. Obviously, it is essentially a Wrangler turned into a Ute, so it's got the off-road thing sorted. And if that's what you really need with your Ute, it could be a great option for you. But would you choose any of those or would you choose something different? Let me know in the comments section. It's not dramatically different to the standard Navara in terms of the size. Obviously, you've got those extra exterior elements that do poke out a little bit more, so it does feel a little bit wider on the road, but it's 5.35 meters in length, so one of the bigger utes in the segment. You might not think that, but it is. And I'm going to put some off-road angles on your screen now so you can see for yourself the approach, ramp over, and departure angles. And also, I'll put the clearance and wading depth millimeters on your screen as well. So I think that those are competitive numbers, and they're the same whether you choose the SL Warrior or the higher grade PRO-4X Warrior. So I reckon that that is a pretty nice consideration for you if you are looking for something that's straight out of the box, does have hardcore credentials. Now, let's take a look at the tub, and this particular version of the Navara has a pretty neat trick. It's got a new HSP roller cover, so I just have to use the button here and that will unlock that roller cover, which I think is excellent. Now let's just have a look. Once it gets to its position, this awesome big LED light bar comes on as well. And I think that that is excellent. The tub dimensions, I'll show them on the screen now, and it is a decent capacity and decent usability in terms of the length, the width. Obviously you don't have a pallet friendly gap between the wheel arches, but you are getting heaps of really good features. You've got tie down points there, and also right up at the headboard as well. They might be a little bit difficult to get to, but you might have to jump up into the back. And yes, it says Navara there, just in case you forget which vehicle you're driving. Now, I reckon that that is a pretty decent usable space. Now, the HSP roller cover doesn't come as standard, so you will need to fit that if you want it as an accessory. And I'm just going to show you that you can also lock it using the key. So press the lock button and it will close itself. It also locks the tailgate as well, which I think is a really handy thing. And underneath the tray itself, you've obviously also got that full-size spare wheel and the tow bar as well. So, yep, it does seem to have the dimensions thing pretty well sorted, and I reckon that that roll cover does make a lot more sense than some of those other ones out there, the manual ones and also the electric ones that are available in other utes. This one is the SL Warrior, and it's a bit more basic looking and basic feeling. Like, you've got a plastic steering wheel, which still has all the nice buttons and looks pretty nice, but it's not the nicest thing to grip. And you've also got a turnkey ignition, which isn't very modern. You've also got the cloth seat trim, which is a bit more basic looking, and the seats aren't quite as comfortable as the higher grade versions. There's also vinyl flooring, and if that actually is something that you go, oh yes, vinyl flooring, then I can totally understand why this one might tick the box for you. It's still got an 8-inch touchscreen media system with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's a pretty simple setup. It's not necessarily hard to get your head around the controls of this. And also, you've got a volume dial, you've got a tuning dial, which I actually really think adds some value. And it's pretty easy to get your head around, pretty easy to connect up to as well. I'm not connected right now because, well, I've been in a different car. Below there, you've got manual controls for your air conditioning. It's still got aircon, yes, but it doesn't have things like heated seats or anything like that, so don't go expecting too many creature comforts in this base grade. You don't get a wireless phone charger there either, and look, you've got some controls down there. You've got a rear diff lock as standard, the four-wheel drive selectors down there as well, USB port, and a pretty generic looking shifter as well. Pair of cup holders here, a couple of blanks, which does add to the in the base model factor, and a covered center console bin with another couple of charging options in there too. Bottle holders in the front doors, and there's also, well, not much else to talk about when it comes to this front seat experience. So let's jump in the back of this SL Warrior and see what it's like. I've got this seat set for my driving position, so we should be able to see easily what the comfort level is like. Yes, I've got mud on my knees, sorry. This seat is set for my driving position at 182 centimeters or 6 foot, and I've got enough knee room here to be comfortable, I would say. It's not necessarily the most roomy in this class. There are more spacious second row experiences in the ute segment these days, but you've also got a decent width to the cabin as well, and also some nice features. So a flip down armrest is standard in this grade with cup holders as well. And there are also bottle holders in each of the doors. You don't get map pockets, which might be a little bit annoying, especially for longer road trips. And there are directional air vents in the back and a USB port there as well. A little tray there that you could store your phone or something like that, although it is quite shallow. And there are ISOFIX points, as you would expect, but just keep in mind, only one top tether point in the middle seat. So if you are fitting a child seat, you'll have to run the cable from the back of the seat through there and over to this side here. And it never really feels like you're getting enough tension on that top tether cable, in my opinion. Anyway, let's quickly go and have a look at the Pro-4X interior, which I think is a little bit more special. Let's go around to the driver's seat. Righto, so here we are in the high grade version. You can tell it instantly by the leather lined steering wheel, and you've also got this red Nissan badge with the black backing. It looks pretty much the same in terms of the steering wheel, but then you've got your push button starter up there. And I like push button start. I think it adds some niceness to your life. You've also got the same screen here with dials and buttons, thankfully. You've got a dual zone climate system here, so that obviously looks a little bit different to the base model grade. There's no wireless phone charger in this spec, but you do get a drive mode button and a parking sensors button as well, because, well, this car has parking sensors, the base one doesn't. You've also got heated seat buttons and the same sort of storage as well. Now the seat trim obviously looks a fair bit more, well, impressive, I would say. It's a leather trim, and it also obviously has the Warrior and Pro-4X embroidery on it, which does add some wow factor. You get Pro-4X mats as well. So yes, carpet floor might not necessarily be the ideal for the hardcore off-roader, but it's still very, very nice in this higher grade version. And yes, there's also an auto dimming rear vision mirror. You get a sunglasses holder in this high grade, plus illuminated vanity mirrors as well. So those features do make it a little bit more user-friendly on the daily, and I think I like the interior of this high grade one just a bit more, even though it might not necessarily be as hardcore heaven as the base grade. Both versions of the Navara Warrior come with a 2.3 litre twin turbo diesel engine. Now there are other versions of the Navara with a less powerful single turbo diesel, but this one has all the grunt you can get in the Navara range. And it is pretty grunty. By class standards, it's up there, but not necessarily setting any benchmarks. You get a 7-speed automatic transmission as standard on the base model grade, and a 6-speed manual or 7-speed auto if you choose the Pro-4X. All versions come with 750 kilos of unbraked towing capacity and 3.5 ton maximum brake towing capacity as well. Obviously, you need to pay attention to your payload figure and also your gross vehicle mass and gross combination mass numbers as well if you are planning to tow, but the maximum tow ball weight is 350 kilos. So if you are planning to hit the road and do the big adventure thing, it could be a really good option for you. So what are these Navara Warrior models like to drive on the road? They're good. In fact, they're great. And that's because primarily the suspension is very different to other utes out there. You've got the coil springs at the back. You've got the revised suspension setup that's been fitted by the guys at Premcar, which does make a huge difference. And also you've got a 40mm lift kit fitted as well. So all round, it does have a different vibe to other utes out there, a more settled, more comfortable, more, I guess, confidence inspiring and confident feeling ride on mixed surfaces. Now I'm driving on some country roads right now, but I've driven it in urban settings as well. And in all of those situations, it does a very compelling job in terms of controlling the experience for everyone on board. Look, it's still a ladder chassis vehicle. It's still, you know, a bit of a rudimentary style of chassis, but it is very, very comfortable and very composed at different situations. The country thing, it does it well. I've just come into a bit of suburban street setting to see what it's like when it comes to parking and urban driving and 3-point turns and that sort of thing. And look, the steering is maybe not quite as fingertip light as in, say, a Ford Ranger or something like that, but it's also not necessarily requiring too much guesswork. It's pretty manageable and also pretty predictable in terms of the way that it changes direction. As I mentioned earlier, both versions of the Navara Warrior come with the 2.3 litre twin turbo diesel engine, which is better than the single turbo model in the entry-level versions. And that means that you do have an easy amount of grunt to deal with. Look, it's not a firecracker of an engine, but it doesn't really need to be. It needs to have effortlessness to the point that it feels easy to live with, and this vehicle does have that. Remember, it also needs to be able to cope with a decent payload, and also 3.5 ton towing capability is part of the whole consideration set here. And look, I'm not doing a towing test, I'm not doing a loaded test, but I'm just showing you what it's like in a mix of different scenarios, and it seems pretty good in terms of the engine. We'll just go back out of this suburban area and give it a bit of a bootful and see how much grunt it's got. Look, it's not throwing me back in my seat. It's not the fastest ute. No one said it was trying to be the fastest ute, but it does have a decent amount of grunt, and it actually feels better when you're driving at lower speeds and you're just using the torque of the engine rather than trying to wring its neck and get everything that it's got. So yeah, I'd say that in lower speed situations, it's a bit more confident in terms of the acceleration than it is at higher speeds. And look, you won't find that you're running too short of grunt when you go to overtake or something like that, but it is something that you might want to keep in mind, that it doesn't necessarily feel quite as perky as some of the other utes out there. All right, so that's on-road. Let's go see what it's like off-road. We're in four-wheel drive high range, and we have done some low range already, but we'll do a bit more of that in a sec. The high range is very, very usable, obviously, on surfaces like I'm driving on right now, which is a loosely graveled surface, I would say. It's not necessarily super slippery, but we might be finding some slippery stuff coming up. Now, the thing that I am really liking about this is these Cooper tyres. They are a very high profile tyre for all-terrain use, and they are really helping to make the ride a little bit more comfortable. Obviously, you do have significant changes to the suspension of this vehicle, but it's still got the coil springs at the back, so it's maybe not as rigid feeling as some of the other utes in this segment with four-wheel drive intent, but it does everything pretty comfortably, and I think that's one of the things that you're going to appreciate about it, because, well, it feels like this has been designed to do this sort of driving all day, every day, whereas some of the aftermarket options that you might find yourself leaning towards if you already own a ute maybe don't nail the brief quite as well. So some of the things that maybe make you realize that you haven't spent as much, apart from the cloth seats and the vinyl floors and that sort of stuff, is the fact that you don't have a push button style of four-wheel drive system. It's a turn dial system, and you have to push it in and then twist to go to low range. Some of the Chinese utes out there that are out these days, you just press a button to go into low range, whereas this one you have to push it in and twist the dial, and sometimes it can be a little bit slower to actuate that low range transfer case. Now, obviously, lift kit means better clearance. Better clearance means less chance of bottoming out over bumpy sections of road and washouts and that sort of stuff. And we've encountered a few of those today. And washout is the literal term, because it is quite slippery and washed out on this track that we're on. And look, I'm not feeling that I don't have the confidence that I need to tackle those sorts of situations in this ute. It really is quite enjoyable and, yeah, just easy going in terms of this drive experience so far. So you've got two choices, obviously, when it comes to the Warrior versions of the Navara. The SL, which is a bit more stripped out in terms of the interior and tech, but it does get all the same hardcore off-road hardware that the Pro-4X Warrior gets in terms of the suspension. You also get a full hoop bull bar, which might matter to you if you live in the bush, because, hey, kangaroos are bigger than just the front bumper in a lot of situations. And you've also got those amazing Cooper tyres and all the work that's been done to make this a serious off-roader straight off the showroom floor. But if you want leather, and if you want carpet, and you want that sports bar on the tray to make it look a little bit sportier, and the graphics and all that sort of stuff, then maybe the Pro-4X Warrior is the one that you should buy. But tell me which one you'd pick in the comments. Okay, so we've done off-road, we've done on-road. Let's talk about fuel use. On your screen, you'll see a few different numbers coming up in the next section. So the SL Warrior is auto only, so there's only one fuel consumption figure to consider there. But if you are considering the Pro-4X model, you'll see the numbers on your screen are a little bit different because it comes with a manual as an option as well. So have I achieved those sorts of numbers on this test? No, but I wouldn't have expected to because I've been doing a lot of off-road driving as part of this review. And on your screen, you'll see the average I saw in the SL Warrior that I spent most of my time in. And I think that that's actually not too bad considering it was across a mix of driving, including some pretty hairy off-road situations and a fair bit of higher speed driving as well. So look, I think that it does seem to be pretty good in terms of the fuel consumption. And yes, obviously it's diesel. You'll see the fuel tank capacity in this vehicle on your screen now as well. And look, it doesn't have AdBlue either. So that's one thing that you don't need to worry about on a longer road trip, and one less cost involved with running the car as well. In fact, that's a good segue. Let's talk about ownership stuff. Nissan Australia offers a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty for the Navara model range. And if you buy one of the models that's been fettled by the legends at Premcar, well, you also get 5 years and unlimited Ks of warranty for all the changes that have been made, which I think does add some extra value to this equation. If you were to go and fit some aftermarket mods to your ute, you might not necessarily get that level of warranty cover or that level of backing from the brand either. So good to know, I reckon. Now let's talk about servicing. Your intervals are lengthy, 12 months and 20,000 kilometers. I don't know whether I'd be okay leaving my car 20,000 Ks between services, but if you're okay with that and you do a lot of distance, hey, it could make sense to you. But just keep in mind, service prices are a little high for this vehicle. Over the 6-year cap price plan, you're looking at more than $700 a year just to keep the thing on the road, which is expensive by class standards. And there's also a 5-year roadside assistance plan as well. But just keep in mind also, if you do decide to prepay your servicing, which is an option, and that means you can roll it into your finance payments and you don't have to worry about it every year, it makes it a little bit cheaper. You get a bit of a discount if you prepay your servicing. The Nissan Navara came with a 5-star ANCAP safety rating in 2015, but it doesn't have one anymore because it's expired. This is an older vehicle now, but it still has a decent amount of safety technology across both the grades of the Warrior and across all the grades of the Navara. You're getting autonomous emergency braking as standard. You've also got 7 airbags, dual front side, driver's knee and full-length curtain coverage, a reversing camera on the ute models as well, and it does seem okay from that perspective, but just remember that base model SL comes with those halogen lights and they aren't safe if you ask me. And then if you step up to the Pro-4X or some of the other high-grade versions of the Navara range, you're getting things like blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, lane keeping assistance, and you also get a surround view camera in this high-grade version as well as rear parking sensors too. So seems to stack up a little bit better. If you can spend the extra money, I reckon you're getting a safer car and an easier car to live with in a lot of different situations as well. But hey, there are newer utes out there with even more safety tech if that really matters to you. These two vehicles offer some great options for people who are looking for a ute that is off-road ready, straight off the showroom floor. You don't have to worry about going to the aftermarket and fitting bits yourself. But hey, which one would you pick? I personally would probably have to go for the Pro-4X. I just think that it adds a few extra features that might make it more livable on a daily basis, and those headlights do make a big difference. But tell me which one you'd go for, or would you go for something different? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. If you've already subscribed, thanks very much. If you haven't, please ring the bell and keep up to date with all of my future reviews. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.